Open source software has become already very popular in distance education because it is a cheap and sometimes totally free, increasingly efficient alternative to expensive commercial softwares. The Sri Lanka and the Mongolian teams in this PANdora project have been very active in the development of these techniques. From the University of Colombo, Dr. Gihan Wikramanayake will talk about the work they are doing in the School of Computing. And from Mongolia, Batparov will talk about the ways in which they are developing open source methods in Mongolian distance education. Dr. Wikramanayake, would you please help us first of all to understand the value of open source software in the learning management context of distance education?
Thank you, John. With respect to open source software, we did an evaluation of commercial available as well as open source software, and we identified several limitations with respect to different products available, and we identified that improving the existing open source content, we could build towards more useful open source tool to build our learning management system. So from this study, Moodle was chosen as a suitable platform, and one of the requirements with respect to this was using it in a localized and a customization form, so you are able to add your own features as well as to work with your own language. With respect to Sri Lankan context, the requirement was to include Sinhala and Tamil language so that the Sri Lankan community can work with Moodle using their own preferred language. So the localization with respect to both languages were carried out parallelly, and content was built in order to be able to translate the Moodle English content to an equal version in form of Sinhala or Tamil. And we have now contributed versions where people can do this translation through this tool and work in their own local language environment.
Now, the PANdora project didn't just assume that Moodle would be the best open source learning management system. It actually made some very detailed comparisons between Moodle and other open source projects. Batparov from Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia was very busy in assembling that evaluated data. Could you tell us some of the ways in which Moodle had features which other products did not have?
Thank you, John. Actually, we have studied different evaluation methods to evaluate learning management systems, including one from ASTD and Commonwealth of Learning, and those developed locally in our partner countries such as Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Mongolia. So we have adopted Commonwealth of Learning evaluation kit, and we have made our own changes, and we have compared over 60 learning management systems. And from there, we have selected 8 learning management systems to do a final evaluation. Moodle was found to be the best in localization in terms of customization. There are big support communities who are working on Moodle development and as well as end users.
And of course, the major advantage of open source methods is that you can adjust the software to make the product useful in any part of the world where language and other cultural differences cause North American products to be inappropriate. Dr. Wikramanayake, your team at the University of Colombo has developed an online video module for the Moodle package. Can you tell us about the web class module?
This particular module allows the students to see the lecturer as if he is addressing to you in front of you, and it works with large user group, but for that you will need some sort of connectivity. So one of the requirements is at least a 512 kbs link where users can get reasonably good quality video and audio for this discussion, as well as they can also interact by typing and giving some responses.
In Mongolia, this particular module that we've developed for the PANdora project promises to be extremely useful because in the desert parts, the mountain parts, students don't have access to the online versions of this, but Batparov, you are already developing CD and SMS features for the Moodle package, which will help to supplement the online audio and video and provide good interactive features. Could you comment on that?
In Mongolia, we have got this very underdeveloped infrastructure. In such circumstances, conducting distance education is difficult, and we have come up with a CD ratio so that students can send messages to Moodle and receive messages from the Moodle server.
The University of Colombo's School of Computing has been developing mixed media approaches for teaching for over 20 years. Could you give us a little background, Jihan, about the history of mixed media in education in Colombo?
Mixed media was used by Professor Samaranayaka, linking with an organization called Syntech for policy making, and initially they introduced a mobile bus where the technology was carried to villages through the mobile unit, where the rural community was able to see and have hands-on experience as a result. With respect to distance learning, the traditional ways were unable to keep up with the demand, and through web-based initially and later on through television media and CD content, as well as recording our internal course lectures and putting them available online for students to use has been practiced, and we have seen students appreciating especially the audio content because of the low bandwidth, and for them to be able to understand concept which has been appreciated more widely than the rest of the content.
And I think we must never forget the power of some of those traditional methods. You mentioned Professor Samaranayaka's work 20 years ago with the mobile methods. Those methods are still valuable today. We have a powerful example of that in India with the Vigyan Prasar uses of the railroads to take educational material and multimedia technologies to rural people. Professor Samaranayaka, who died this year, left a powerful legacy for distance education, and Professor Sam's mobile methods in Sri Lanka, I strongly believe, should be replicated and perpetuated today. Just tell us a little bit more about Professor Samaranayaka's mobile work.
The work actually started 20 years ago. It's been still carried forward. So we are trying out how to pass this regularly used content through mobile services, like connecting devices in the public transport system, so that despite difficulties with low bandwidth and so forth, access to content can be made available to the public.
What you're describing, Jihan, is also being done in a different way here in Pakistan, and the director of the Virtual University of Pakistan has just joined us and has useful observations about the combinations of mobile methods that they are using combined with satellite broadcasting at the Virtual University of Pakistan. Professor Naveed Malik.
Thank you, John. We use mixed mode education at the Virtual University of Pakistan in the sense that we have video lectures which are broadcast over free-to-air television. They're also available as streaming video over the internet from our own learning management system servers. We still run into problems in the sense that sometimes the satellite reception is interfered with by the local WiMAX networks, which are now spreading all over Pakistan. And we're on the extended C-band, so they share frequencies and there is interference. Sometimes the local cable operators do not carry the Virtual University's signals, which means then either the recipient would have to install their own dish receiver or not be able to receive the lectures at all. So we have resorted to a traditional technique, which is make the video lectures available on CDs and DVDs. Now these are very, very inexpensive and fairly ubiquitous. The university distributes them at cost, so a whole course of 45 hours of video lectures would cost maybe about $5 or less for any student or aspiring student. And the DVD version is even cheaper. One single DVD holds 45 hours of video lectures in compressed form and is available at cost for about $0.50. So that's extremely affordable. So the message here is when more modern methods run into some kind of problems in terms of reaching the target audience, one can always fall back to more traditional methods of disseminating the same information.
A very important infrastructural requirement is the development of telecentres, and I know that you have been vigorous in that area in Sri Lanka, Dr. Vikramanayaka.
One of the things Professor identified was we need to make more use of television, radio to reach the rural community, and through centers they have access to some of the resources by coming to those physical locations. To encourage them to be part of the actual use of technology and the information which is accessible through that, we have been able to have regular programs, weekly program where students and whoever comes to the center participate in radio programs, television programs, so that they appreciate the facilities and the process and be part of the system.
Thank you very much. And we would all like to pay tribute to your late colleague, Professor Samranaika, whose work influenced all of us. Thank you, Gihan Wickramanayake. Thank you to Batra from Mongolia, to Professor Naveed Malik, Lecturer of the Virtual University of Pakistan. Goodbye.